Good morning, everybody here. In today's video, we're going to do a response, kind of what the media has said about Brad Holmes in his press conference. I have now watched countless videos of the media really getting upset with Brad Holmes and his receipt giving back after this year because look, Brad Holmes knows what he's doing, and he wanted to respond because he took a ton of heat for this last year's draft. It was heat that we're talking about that we haven't seen in a really long time, right? I mean, it was universal that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell had a garbage draft. And that's what the legacy media, all of them did, local and large. And now, after having the press conference, I seen the media response to it, and they are just dragging Brad Holmes for giving up those receipts. Here's the thing. First off, everybody is allowed to have their own opinion. It's important, right? Like, we all may disagree, but it's cool. Everyone's allowed to have whatever thought they want to have, and whether you're a former player, or just a fan, or just anybody, you're allowed to have your opinion. But I think it's really important for the media to take note, okay? Because here's the thing. Legacy media, in my opinion, is dying. The legacy media is the media that we have been dealing with for many years. It's the same old Lions media, the same narrative that we've been dealing with years. And that's what they revert to. The problem here is there needs to be accountability, and I think everybody needs to be accountable, myself included, the Lions organization, the fans, the media. Accountability for anything, any job. Everyone needs to be accountable. You got to be accountable for what you do and say. Sometimes you do the right things, sometimes you do the wrong things, but just be accountable. Hey, I screwed up, man. I was completely wrong. I think that's important. For me, accountability is I didn't really want to get a tight end in the draft last year. When they drafted Sam Laporta, I said, hey, I didn't really want to get a tight end, but I defer to Brad Holmes. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. He's talking about, right? So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. And the media is striking back because they're getting told you're wrong. And they can't handle it right now. It's a meltdown media. Well, look, media, there's a reason why there is an abundant rise in content creators for the Detroit Lions on YouTube and other platforms, because the big mainstream legacy media is failing the fan base. They're lying to them, or they're just deferring to the same old Lions narrative because they're unwilling to do the research to look at a prospect to see what type of player they are. They just, we're not going to do the research. What does Mel Kiper say? Running backs in the first round you can't do, blah, blah, blah. Instead of looking at all the players as players, right? And just not care. When we got Jahmyr Gibbs, I liked it. We got Jack Campbell, I loved it. When we got Brian Branch, I was ecstatic. It's a great draft. I thought it was a great draft. And I was getting ridiculed by a lot of fans saying you're just a homer. I'm like, no, that's not about being a homer. I've already seen Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. I love Jack Campbell from Iowa. And Brian Branch, the guy was he should have been a top 10 pick. Anybody knew this because he took the time to do the research, i.e., why you see the rise of these little YouTube channels, whether it be small channels, less than 1,000, or bigger channels. Generally speaking, these content creators on YouTube are more right than the legacy media because they take the time to do the research. You may not agree with any content creator, but the odds or the idea that all these little channels can come up with and be more correct than big media, it's sad almost, right? Because you get these little guys on the YouTube channels, and I mean little guys, I mean little amount of sub counts, yet they know more than what the legacy media is saying. I got Ant-Man over here, right? I love Ant-Man. The guy knows prospects, okay? Raw Detroit knows prospects. AG knows prospects. Content creators I may not agree with. They know what they're talking about. I watch them all. So when you see a influx of, say, YouTubers, or not even YouTubers, maybe the Pride of Detroit's or smaller, and they're more right than the bigger, it's sad. It's sad. It really is. We have got to be accountable, and the media has got to be accountable. Stop being butthurt because you're wrong. Adjust, fire, and get better at evaluation of talent. It's simple as that. That's all you got to do. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell have right to be angry. They all trashed him for months. They were getting trashed and dragged through the mud. And so then Brad Holmes comes out in a press conference and is a little bit fury for what? His 30-minute press conference over the countless months and hours of big media and local media trashing this man with what he did up to that point is ludicrous. You have to look at the body of work. He did great in 21, did great in 22. Odds are he's probably going to have a good draft in 23, right? But they didn't even look at that. They seen Jahmyr Gibbs running back, trash, terrible pick. No one likes it. Jack Campbell, overrated, not good. Why didn't they go Michael Mayer instead of Sam Laporta? That's the type of stuff we're hearing. Because, in which I honestly like Mel Kiper Jr. I like those guys. That's their job, is to do prospects. And they're going to be wrong, too. And none of these, not everybody's right, especially Mel Kiper. He does this every year, right? Or these other ones, or Todd McShay, whoever. This is what they do, but they're not part of an organization. You know, they work for ESPN. They're not part of an NFL team. So why are all the media just going on what they say? I mean, it's cool for the Mel Kipers and them to get the exposure because everybody's listening to what they're saying, but the media needs to sit down, stop looking at the big narrative that's being done, and do the own research. Really, do it. It's not that hard. It just take the time. I think it's absolutely unacceptable that somebody, say, who's a content creator, who has a normal job, who works 40 hours a week, they spend time on their off time, and they get more right than somebody has to do this for a job at a daily basis. To me, it's unacceptable. And that's the reason why I personally started my YouTube channel, is because the media was so bad. They get nothing right. They don't know they don't know prospects. They're just shooting things out the hip. And for me, 5 years ago, I said I've had it. I have had it. So, and I know a lot of people, the fans included, says I've had it. I love it. I like Matt Derry. I think he's awesome. I really do. But he dropped that video, I think it was yesterday, is criticizing Brad Holmes. And boy, my opinion, he's incorrect. He's actually pretty good, but I think he was off on that video. The media should be held to account just like anybody else. Just like Brad Holmes, just like Dan Campbell, just like me, just like you, just like anybody. They need to be held to account. You can't just simply put out narratives and, I want to say, lie to your fans or lie to the fan base with your articles, but you're not doing the proper research, and then you're just making an assumption. You're going with it. We got to stop doing that. You get Jeff Risdon, right? He's Detroit Lions podcast. Love Jeff Risdon. This guy's a good media member. Like, he knows what he's taught. Is he right all the time? Absolutely not. But he is so humble and so into his job of doing the prospects, and Chris over there, that, if you're looking for a media member, a local, that's who you need to listen to. Right there. Is he perfect? No, no one's perfect. I mean, no one is. Everyone's going to get something wrong here and there, but he takes the time. And I'm going to defend Brad Holmes because I thought, 97 won the ticket, the big media, Matt Deary's video, and all the freeps and everybody is just kind of laying it on Brad Holmes. I think it's unacceptable. Y'all trashed him for months, but now you can't take 30 minutes of payback when he literally, in the past 3 years, he's drafted Hall of Famers. So what are you upset about? Like, why are you not just, okay, let me sit back. Look what Brad Holmes did in this last draft before you say they get an F grade. Be like, okay, wow, look at this Jahmyr Gibbs. Looks like it's Jahmyr Gibbs. You don't take a running back in the first round. Why would you? First off, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You're not going to take a player because of a position at a said spot. That may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So you're telling me if there's a Chris Johnson sitting there and you're not going to take him because he's a running back. Derrick Henry, you're not going to take him because he's a running back, right? You're not going to do that. Well, because he's a running back. Okay. But they're good. If a player is exceptional, if a player is a blue chipper, whatever position, are you going to take that blue chipper, or are you going to take something lesser because you want to not take a running back in round 1? That is dumb. I don't agree to any narrative where you don't take one position at what? Because you don't know if that player is super elite. If he is an elite player, I don't care what he is. Take the elite player. Say they're in the draft this year. We're sitting at 29, and there's an elite player there that maybe we got an influx at a position, right? But it's an elite player at whatever position. But then there's a position of need that the player's good. Do you want Brad Holmes to not take the elite player and just go with the position of need, or take the elite player? You take the elite player. Your whole point of the draft is to make your roster better. And sometimes you just go best player available. Jahmyr Gibbs clearly was the best player available on their board. He almost had, 1,000 yards rushing, a ton of passes. He was one of the reasons we got to the NFC Championship. There's no way we're going to get there without Jahmyr Gibbs lightning, okay? He made it to where defenses had to completely change the way they operate. So that's why they drafted this player. In the media, you got to stop ripping on Holmes when you're wrong. You're not holier than thou. Okay? No one is. Take it. Take the whooping, learn from it, and move forward. That's it. Be fair in your criticism. Be patient, do the research, and then make an evaluation. Don't just go with the flow, what everyone else is saying. Just because everybody's saying something doesn't make it to be the truth. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So the media, you got to do a better job. Got to do a better job. You do. And especially the big media. We're talking national media, legacy media. Y'all really got some problems. Well, the Lions can't do it because they're the Lions. The dumbest excuse I've ever heard in my entire life. So take the time and do it. You don't want to get a whiplash by Brad Holmes? Do the research then. Oh, it's crazy. And you won't have this problem. You won't have this problem. So defer to Brad. Like, Brad Holmes knows what he's doing. So whatever draft they have this year, whatever players they get, I fully expect these players to be awesome. And I could care less what Mel Kiper Jr. or what the local legacy media says. I'm going to do my own evaluation. I want you guys to do your own evaluation too. Don't even take my word for it. Do your own research. Do your word for it. Take the time. It's not that hard. So, man, media's got to change. It's got to change the way it operates because it's pathetic. It's pathetic. They got to change the way. No one is above anything. We all can get better. It just feels like some of these guys in the media are a little butthurt because they were wrong. And now they don't like it that they're getting it pointed back at them, looking like fools. Because that's what they are. They're looking like fools right now after this year. So I love it that Brad Holmes did what he did. Media, take note. With that said, folks, adios.